Hello. Today we will start learning how to create backend solutions using Microsoft Azure and .NET Core. This course assumes that you are already an experimented user of Visual Studio, so you already know how to use it. We are going to use Visual Studio 2019, which is the latest version of Visual Studio up to this day. Okay, so if you already have Visual Studio open and you have something like this, you can go to File, New, or create a new project. Okay, so in this course we will learn about how to create a couple of artifacts or different projects to complete a whole solution, a whole backend solution. We will learn how to use database projects, Azure Functions projects, .NET Core Web APIs, .NET Core Worker Services, and some other Azure technologies that we could use on the way. So the first thing we want to do is actually to create an empty solution. Okay, so we'll create a blank solution. We will name it okay, I'll name it like that, and I'll put it here. Okay, so we hit create, and now we have our empty solution. Okay, so now what do we want to have in our application? So it depends on your actual requirements, but in this case we are going to use an SQL database server, so we will design a database project within Visual Studio. We will have a .NET Core Web API, so we'll have a .NET Core project there, and we will have at least a worker service again in .NET Core, so we will have a .NET Core worker service application. So let's create a database project, add a project, SQL, so SQL database project, next. Okay, how do we want to name it? I'll name it with the name of the course. Okay, we will create it, and we'll see that we will have the actual database project in the solution. Okay, let's wait a couple of seconds for that to finish, and now you see that here we have an empty database project where we can go and import the database from an already existing database, and we can also start adding folders, tables, views, scripts, and any other objects that are going to exist in the database. So we will first create the initial project's configuration, and then we'll start adding the logic. So as I already mentioned, we are also going to be using Azure Functions. So okay, and we can name it however we want, but I'll just name it with the name of the solution or the project actually, the course.Azure Functions. Okay, and now I am not going to be creating any function at this time, so I'll not add anything there. One thing we need to make sure is that the storage account being used is going to be the storage emulator, so we can actually test the Azure Functions locally. Okay. The other thing that we will add is the actual API. So we'll add another project, add new project. We will look for .NET Core, and we are looking for the web one. So web, let's see, ASP.NET Core web application. Okay, let's make sure that we are choosing C#. Okay, okay, ASP.NET Core. Okay, ASP.NET Core web application. Okay, this is the one in C#. So, okay. Name it APIs. Okay. I'll make sure that it's in ASP.NET Core 3.1. Okay, and that is on .NET Core, right? I'll choose API, and I don't need to select anything else, so we'll create it. Okay, now we see that here we have the API with the default template. Now we need to add the ASP.NET and the .NET Core worker service. Okay, so this is the worker service. Okay, in C#. Okay. Okay. .NET Core 3.1 worker service. Okay. And now we have those projects. So we are going to set the APIs just as a startup project, because that's where we will be working. So let's just run it to be able to test, just so we know that the default schema is okay. Something else we will add in a second is test projects, because you must not have code without automated tests. You can have it, however, when you don't use automated testing, it actually causes your development to go slower, and the manual testing of your application creates more development time, because you need to find solutions that you could have automatically resolved with your integration testing. Okay, so here is the default weather forecast. Okay, something that we actually need to add in here is the Swagger UI to test much easier, or APIs. Swagger. So we will add Swagger gem, latest stable. Okay. Let's see. Also Swagger. Okay, so now we will go to the documentation, just because I always forget the actual lines. So in configure services, we will go to add services at Swagger, right? So let's go to the configure services in the startup project. Okay, configure services. Okay. Just give me a second, please. Okay, services dot add Swagger gen. Okay, and then we will need to add in the configured app Swagger and the app use Swagger UI. I'll copy those. Okay, so configure. Let's see. Yeah, all of them at the beginning. Okay. So it says that it doesn't have that one. Control that. And I believe I didn't install the package for that one. Let's see if it was this one. And yeah, we have the use Swagger UI, and now we have this. Something else that I am going to do is just configure so that the so that when I load the application, it will actually go to the to the Swagger UI documentation. So right now, if I launch the application as he did, it will redirect me to the Swagger to the weather forecast endpoint. This is because the default template for the web API configuration has the launch settings like that. So we just remove it. Now see what happens when I load the application. Okay, so this is what happens if I load the application right now, because there is no no controller that responds to the blank route. So what I will say is, to the Swagger UI configuration, I will say that the root prefix has empty. So what it will do is that when the root is empty, it will redirect me to the Swagger UI documentation. So let's run the application again, and we should see the actual API definition. And here we have it. We have the my API version 1 and the weather forecast, which is the default API that's generated with the .NET Core API template. Okay, so what are we missing? Now I'm going to change this because I don't like the name. Yeah, just a little bit long. Let's see how that looks. Okay, yeah, just what I thought. It was going to be a little bit long. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so we already have the APIs, the Azure Function, the worker service, and the database created. Okay, so something else that I mentioned is that we should actually create unit testing. That's a must. Okay. Unit test. So, yeah, in .NET Core. Okay, so we have different types of unit tests. Personally, I like most using MS Test because I can easily configure what's called Microsoft Fakes, and I feel really more comfortable with MS Test. Um, Pretty much, I feel that they integrate the better with the other types of projects uh, in Visual Studio or Microsoft products. So, do that. Project name, automated tests, and yeah, okay. So that goes to testing. This is one of the things that you could do. .NET Core allows you to easily test your web APIs. And if you create your APIs not being dependent of things such as cookie, if you create them in a way of not being dependent of web configurations, you can easily test your .NET Core APIs. They are actually They are actually designed from the scratch to be able to easily test them. So I don't even have to go to configure a lot of the controller context or session or things like that sometimes in web applications make it hard to test. And actually, I don't even have to consume or test the APIs through HTTP calls. I can actually consume or test the .NET Core APIs by just adding a reference and invoke the methods directly. So, let's say that I am going to test that weather forecast controller. Now I'll do something before doing all that. Integration tests. Okay. Let's see. Weather forecast tests. Okay. We are going to say that this is a test class. Okay. Public void. Let's go to the controller to see the actual no, this one. We are going to test the actual get. So get weather forecast test. Okay. Test method. Weather forecast controller. We create a new instance. Okay. we need to get the logger, which at the moment actually I think we can send null because we are not using it at all, or we can just instantiate a new one. Okay, var result equals weather forecast controller dot get. Okay, and that gives us an enumerable. Okay, assert dot is true. That result dot count the list is empty. Okay, so let's see how that goes. Debug test. And let's see if the test is going to be executed. Okay, seems I am missing something in that test. Let's see. Test Explorer, and here we have, okay, so that's because the class is not public. That's what I missed. So okay, it appears in here. I am going to delete this other unit test. And now I am going to try to test this one again, and the breakpoint should fall into place. Okay, instantiate the controller. We get the result. Let's see what it has. So we get a couple of things. Okay, and the test is going to pass because, yeah, the count is greater than 0, so the test pass. Otherwise, we will have gotten this. So we can just go and do something like return new list of weather forecast to array and test that. That should actually, let's just run the tests without debug it, and we should get an error once this finishes running. Okay, so we see that here we get an error and it says asset.true failed. The list is empty because I am just returning an empty something empty. Okay, something you may have noticed is that here I have some code highlighted or with those links. And you will see that here I have links such as reachable code, there's a warning, and we have some other links in here that are just messages for code analysis, just to make your code have more quality on it. So one of the things I usually do is I force all of the warnings to be treated as errors. So treat the warnings as error. Okay. Azure Functions, build, treat warnings as errors. Worker service. Okay, build, treat warnings as errors. In the database, we can actually do something similar. We can go to, I believe it was SQL build, treat warnings as errors. Okay. And automated tests also treat warnings as errors. Okay, I'll close all the documents for a second now, and we'll go to rebuild solution, and you will see that now I have this reachable code detected, moved from warning to error, and it will not allow me to build the application. So I will go to reachable code detected. I will remove this test line that I added a second ago. I'll just clean all the errors and rebuild. And now we see that we have this succeed. Now we have these some analysis that tells us that the private, this one can be removed because it's actually not being used. So I could do something, I don't know, like logger dot log the block, retrieving items. Okay, and that will give me some information in the logger if I need to do that, and the actual message already disappeared. Okay, so that's actually some of the start for who we are going to work. This weather forecast controller is actually going to disappear when we start adding the actual logic of the whole system. We are going to have other types of controllers instead. We are going to be using some services from Azure, such as Azure Maps, cognitive services, text analytics, the translator, the computer vision, probably some others. For the database, we are actually going to use an Azure SQL Serverless database, which is a database that you can is a kind of database that allows you to optimize your usage and costs. Basically, the database is paused when you are not using it, and is restarted once it starts getting requests to the database. We are also going to be using .NET Core ORM to Entity Framework Core ORM to access the database easily. and we are going to see some of the techniques that you should use when connecting um, to database through an ORM, with also some small special things that you need to do when connecting to cloud-based databases. Okay, so I hope you have liked it, and please like the video, and the rest of the videos will actually be on our digital training website, and the link you will see it at the end and the description. So please visit that link and let us know everything um, that you may want to learn about .NET Core and Azure, specifically development with Azure and .NET Core together. Thank you very much and have a great day.